Hello everyone, I am Shravani. I am pursuing MBA first sem in SVC College, Bangalore. Today I am going to explain about the hypothesis testing. It was an assignment given by Ajapshatru Samalsar relating to statistics for managers. Meaning of hypothesis testing. Meaning of hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing is a formal procedure for investigating our ideas about the world using statistics. It is most often used by scientists to test specific predictions called hypotheses that arises from theories. Types of hypothesis testing. Z-test. The Z-test is a statistical method primarily employed when comparing means from two data sets, particularly when the population standard deviation is known. Its main objective is to ascertain if the means are statistically equivalent. T-test. The T-test is a versatile statistical tool used extensively in research and various fields compare means between two groups. It's particularly valuable when the population standard deviation is unknown or when dealing with smaller simple sizes. Chi-square test. The chi-square test stands distinct from previous tests, primarily focusing on categorical data rather than means. This statistical test is instrumental when analyzing categorical variables to determine if observed data align with expected outcomes as posited by the null hypothesis. Procedure of hypothesis testing. There are 5 main steps in hypothesis testing. State your research hypothesis as a null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis HO and HA or H1. Collect data in a way designed to test the hypothesis. Perform an appropriate statistical test. Decide whether to reject or fail to reject your null hypothesis. Present the finding in your results and discussion section. Step 1. State your null and alternative hypothesis. After developing your initial research hypothesis, it is important to restate it is a null and alternative hypothesis so that you can test it mathematically. The alternative hypothesis is usually your initial hypothesis that predicts a relationship between variables. The null hypothesis is the prediction of number of relationship between the variables you are interested in. Hypothesis testing. Example, you want to test whether there is a relationship between gender and height based on your knowledge of human physiology. You formulate a hypothesis test that men are and on average taller than women. To test this hypothesis, you restate it as H. Men are on average not taller than women. H. Men are on average taller than women. Step 2. Collect data. For a statistical test to be valid, it is important to perform sampling and collect data in a way that is designed to test your hypothesis. If your data are not representative, then you can't make statistical inferences about the population and you are interested in. Hypothesis testing. Example, to test difference in average height between men and women, your sample should have an equal proportion of men and women and cover a variety of socio-economic classes and any other control variables that might influence average height. You should also consider your scope. A potential data source in this case might be census data, since it includes data from variety of regions and social classes and is available for many countries around the world. Step 3. Perform a statistical test. There are variety of statistical tests available, but they are all based on the comparison of within group variance versus between group variance. If the between group variance is large enough that there is little or no overlap between groups, then your statistical test will reflect that by showing a low p-value. This means it is unlikely the differences between these groups come about by chance. Alternatively, if there is high within group variance and low between group variance, then your statistical test will reflect that with a high p-value. This means it is likely that any difference you measure between groups is due to chance. Your choice of statistical test will be based on the type of variables and the level of measurement of your collected data. Step 4. Decide whether to reject or fail to reject your null hypothesis. Based on the outcome of your statistical test, you will have to decide whether to reject or fail to reject your null hypothesis. In most cases, you will use the p-value generated by your statistical test to guide your decision. And in most cases, your predetermined level of significance for rejecting the null hypothesis will be 0.05. That is when there is a less than 5% chance that you would see these results if the null hypothesis were true. In some cases, researchers choose a more conservative level of significance such as 0.01, 1%. This minimizes the risk of incorrectly rejecting the null hypothesis. Step 5. Present your findings. The results of hypothesis testing will be presented in the results and discussion selections of your research paper, dissertation or thesis. In the results section, you should give a brief summary of the data and a summary of the results of your statistical test. For example, the estimated difference between group means and associated p-value. In the discussion, you can discuss whether your initial hypothesis was supported by your results or not. In the formal language of hypothesis testing, we talk about rejecting or failing to reject the null hypothesis. You will probably be asked to do this in your statistical assignments. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube video. If you like my video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.